we'll get started. All right, so thanks for taking time out of your day to sit in on this, and I'm glad that you've taken the initiative to go out and get this information and apply it to your own situation. Um, and so, just to give you a little bit of background, um, you know, I know you've seen some of the information that I've put out, and all of this is based on my own experiences. So any information that I provide is, based on my experience as well as some other clients as well. And so the reason why I put this program together was to be able to share information on building credit as well as getting access to funding regardless of whatever your current credit profile is. Whether you have poor, fair, or even excellent credit, everyone can benefit from this type of information. So essentially, what this approach is at the core is just building relationships with different financial institutions. And I've learned a lot as far as how that works, and even how banks even look at you based on your relationship with them. So that could be whether you have, let's say, checkings or savings or other types of accounts with banks. That actually goes a long way, even if you may not have excellent credit. So what this program does is basically, I sort of went through trial and error with acquiring, various different accounts from, banks such as Navy Federal, Capital One, TD Bank. There's so many, we're not going to cover that in today's video. But I could basically tell you different nuances within different financial institutions. For example, like Chase, for example, they have a 524 rule, which means that if you have any accounts, if you open up more than 5 accounts within 24 months, you're automatically denied no matter what your credit score is. Then there's other banks like Navy Federal who are, they're much more lenient underwriting guidelines. They'll give you a higher limit even with a lower credit score. And, then there's other, smaller financial institutions that, aren't sort of these big banks that a lot of people don't know about, but they offer great products. So the approach that I've used and that's worked with me was actually going into these banks that I didn't have a relationship with, and just opening up a savings account, for example. And if you think about it, if you don't have a history with someone and you go out and try to get some type of funding without just having those data points, a history of past payment history, things like that, and it's going to be harder for you to just go in from the beginning and actually acquire these accounts. So I've actually found a path of least resistance. When you go in, let's say you open a savings account, for example, and then a lot of banks will offer you secured cards. So specifically secured cards that graduate to unsecured cards within a certain threshold. And I've actually kind of narrowed this down in this program. And so I actually have several that I've actually acquired. And, between all of these, there's probably about 10 or so, secured cards here. All of them have unsecured. And, there's certain nuances. For example, here, for example, is a Discover It card. I put down $200, and then within 7 months, just like clockwork, they send you back a check, and they'll auto increase your limit to like 2,000, and then this earns 2% cash back on the first $1,000 that you spend every quarter. And so the approach with this particular program, depending on your your credit profile, because obviously everyone probably doesn't have to start at the secured, if you already have a credit history established already. But this is sort of designed with the assumption that you're either starting out, or you don't have a good credit history, or you're trying to rebuild your credit. So this approach will work regardless of your credit history or whatever. But I guess sort of the takeaway too is that it's, at the end of the day, it's establishing a relationship. You're providing data points for that institution. So after a while, once they see, okay, you've been with us for a year, you paid on time, and then you can grow within that. And then, as I mentioned, some institutions, for example, American Express is one where they'll, I guess they put a bigger emphasis on your relationship with them as opposed to whatever your past credit history was. So that's one of the highlights of this particular program is a piggyback method. And so this sort of works where you're able to get in the Amex system, and you're able to pre-qualify for various different credit, whether the personal side or the business side. And I guess one of the advantages is if you're a business owner, or if you're thinking about starting up a business, and you're already, let's say, at Amex, you could be have a primary account or an authorized user account, and then sort of piggyback, so where you can apply for business lines of credit, business charge cards with a brand new LLC. And that method is sort of a game changer, because if you were to go to a traditional bank, you're going to have to provide, first of all, you're going to have a couple years in business. You're going to have established business credit. You're going to need collateral. You're going to need tax returns. You're going to need all types of balance sheets and documentation. So this is one way to get access to that funding that you would need for a business, or whatever other purpose that you would need it for. And this particular strategy is very effective because it minimizes the number of inquiries that you're racking onto your report as you acquire accounts, which is very important because certain institutions are very sensitive of a lot of inquiries. And so this primary account building program is designed to be as effective and give you the highest odds of approval before you even apply. So, for example, if you're in I guess a lot of consumers don't understand like the hierarchy within the financial system. So there's certain banks that are cater to either, like, let's say, a subprime credit profile or a fair credit profile or a prime. For example, Chase, Amex, they tend to cater towards sort of prime credit. Barclays, and Discover as well. And then there's other financial institutions that will give you credit with a new or rebuilding credit profile. And so at a high level, what we're doing is we've mapped out a process based on our own experiences where we're able to acquire credit accounts and grow within these financial institutions. And it's always a good idea to just have multiple different sources of funding. And there's no rule on the number of financial relationships that you can have. And it's funny because when I was first starting out, I was saying, once I get this amount of funding, I can do this, this, and that. But then once you actually get it, it's not as easy as far as what you're actually going to do with it. And so, just to give you an idea, this whole process, from my personal experience, took, I would say, probably about the end of 2017 I started doing research and gathering data points and actually going out to these different banks and um, even these small credit, less well-known credit unions, and sitting down and talking to the underwriters, talking to the banks, getting a checklist of what's needed for requirements as far as approvals, and then actually going out and firsthand trying these out. And so our program basically will work for any credit profile, whether even if you're recovering from a bankruptcy or new to credit. We have a lot of clients who access with help in establishing their credit profiles for their young adult children. So it could work with any profile. Uh, One caveat to that as well, everyone is not necessarily going to start at the same point, for example. So the assumption is that you're sort of starting from the bottom, but if that's not the case, then you can jump right in and skip a few steps. Um, and so one thing that I want everyone to do while we're on the line is I'm going to do a one-on-one with everyone. Review your credit profile and just get a more in-depth understanding of what your goals are, what you're sort of looking for to make sure that, your credit profile, whatever your goals are, we can, modify, that blueprint to fit for you specifically. So one thing to do is go get your free Experian credit report, www.experian.com. You can sign up. I think it's free. They have a 7-day trial for $1 if you want to view like your TransUnion or your Equifax as well. You don't need to do that. You can actually get your TransUnion from wallethub.com. Not the app. You have to actually go into the browser and type out wallethub.com, log in, and then they have a feature where you can see your full credit report and then email it to yourself. So that's one thing that I'd like following this meeting. And if you need any instructions, I could walk you through. I think I posted a video already that has that process. And then another important thing to do is go to www.optoutprescreen. And basically what this is you're basically given permission to, for the credit bureaus to share your information with, various different financial institutions for pre-screened credit offers. Some credit products, for example, there's like a Merit Bank. Actually, I have a bunch of the cards with me. Like Merit Bank, First Savings, First National. You can't like go on their website and apply for it. You can only acquire it through a pre-screen. So if you go there and you opt in, then there's also OLO rewards that they also work just through the pre-screen. Like you can't apply; it's like invitation only. So that's another thing. So make sure you go there, www.optoutprescreen, and opt in. So then you'll start, getting these pre-qualified offers. So that's one thing. And then, so as I mentioned, there's, certain tiers, within the credit system. My approach has been just establishing a relationship, taking the path of least resistance. And, generally when it's basically just to sort of alleviate any perceived risk, from the bank's perspective on, whether or not to extend you a banking relationship. So the secured card method definitely has worked a lot, and I've specifically, gone through trial and error with, making sure that these are secured cards that convert to unsecured. So what that means is basically, let's say you put down a deposit, and usually they'll either put it in a savings account, or it could be a CD, or it could be a variety of different savings products where they basically freeze the account. They'll issue you a credit card, and then you basically have up to the full limit of that, of whatever your savings balance is. And so, some clients, don't understand the concept, where they think that they're not going to get their money back, or but it's basically your money. You have access to it just via a credit line. And the most important part of that is that you're building data points, payment history, how much you're actually using on a monthly basis, because that's ultimately what's needed later down the road if you're looking for larger credit limits, things like that. It's just basically the data that's available, positive data, for example. And so, that's what I would say is sort of the core piece of this primary account building program. But then, so that's sort of the first tier. Then there's a second tier, where there's unsecured credit cards, unsecured credit accounts, they're not prime, so it's not going to be a lot of these rewards cards, but and some of these might come with annual fees, but they're great for just establishing a relationship. A couple examples that I could give to you, as I mentioned, you've probably heard. So there's Credit One, which a lot of people don't don't really recommend that one, but if you're in the rebuilding process, that's an option. There's First Savings, there's OLO, even Capital One has they have a not a secured card. They do have a secured card, but they have a platinum. It's an unsecured card, but it starts you at like a $300 limit. So there's a second tier of unsecured credit products that don't have that many rewards. They have lower limits, and that some of them come with annual fees. So that's sort of the second tier. And then as you continue up, there's another level, which I would say it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say prime, but it's right below like prime credit. So anywhere from, I would say, if your credit score is in the range of let's say like a 640 to a 700. So these are going to be rewards cards. You could get qualified for certain Amex, Discover, TD Bank. These generally come with no annual fees, various rewards. That's one thing that I've definitely started optimizing whenever I'm out. I'm thinking, okay, if I'm at the grocery store, I'm going to use my 6% cashback card. If I'm getting gas, or if I'm dining out, all that's going through my mind, because not to say that it's that significant, but if you're spending hundreds of dollars in certain categories, it's definitely worthwhile to sort of take advantage of that. And then there's also a lot of for example, there's a lot of sign-on bonuses. So if you spend a certain amount within let's say the first 3 months or something like that, you'll get a statement credit. And sometimes those could be a couple hundred, anywhere from 100 to, some offers have as high as $500. So then so there's that I guess prime, not prime, but it's a level right below prime. So you're probably going to be in the credit limits anywhere from, let's say, $1,000 to $10,000. And then once you get to the next sort of echelon, the top echelon, where you have some of the best prime. So we're talking about the Amex Platinums, the Amex Golds, the Chase, some of these more premium cards where you're going to get higher limits. anywhere from 10,000. Generally you're not going to really see limits above 50,000, depending on the banks. But most of from the data points that I've gathered, you don't get to those limits until you're really like above 760, 25,000, $30,000. And that's sort of the ultimate goal with this. But it's definitely something that is attainable. I've gone through it firsthand. Starting from the bottom. Starting off with very low credit score, building it up over several years, getting positive data, every month, generating positive payment experiences, and then moving up and up. And so, my whole goal is to share all of this information because I know, the difference that it could make just having good credit and the opportunities that it presents. And so I think that's all I wanted to, just sort of give as far as an introduction today. There's a ton of information on very specific, accounts. And, once I do a review of your credit profile, I can tell you, okay, you're not going to want to apply for this card, or, you might be a good fit for this card, based on your credit profile, based on what your goals are. And believe it or not, there's options for everybody. We have clients with bankruptcies, clients, I had a client started out with they probably had about a 510 credit score, got them up, to the mid sixes, within a matter of, 5 weeks. So, there's definitely a lot of opportunity. And, once we do a review, we'll go more in depth and narrow down your options, based on what your goals are, and, I'm not sure what everyone's goal is, if everyone wants, high limits, or if you just want your, certain amount. So, it's all put into perspective. So, we'll definitely map out the appropriate, strategy based on, the data that's currently available on your credit profile. And then we'll also be putting out videos, very specific videos, different credit reviews on different products, all the ins and outs, what you would need for various different banks. And then just briefly, so as far as like an order, there's certain banks, for example, I said, like Discover, they like to see, like they have a secured card, but this can't generally be your first card. They like to see you have a revolver with like a year of history before you go there. Or even like TD Bank, they have a secured card. They'll secure your, like whatever amount you put up in 8 months, clockwork, they'll unsecure it and give you the same credit line. There's Merrick Bank, they'll double your line after 8 months. And then also there's this is invitation only. So remember earlier when I said opt-in pre-screen, that's something that you'd have to do in order to get this. My favorite, Navy Federal, they unsecure 2,000. That's generally the same thing. And then even sometimes, if you're starting we've had clients who couldn't get approved for, certain, even certain secured cards, but then there's also options for secure cards that they just serve as a purpose for just establish an account, and they don't actually require a certain credit score. You have like Open Sky, Applied Bank. I don't recommend, but this was through trial and error that I found out about that. And so as I mentioned, there's a particular order that you'd want to optimize. As I mentioned, some institutions are inquiry sensitive, and no matter what your credit score is, if they see a lot of inquiries, they're going to deny you. Two of the highlights of this program is the Navy federal sponsorship. If you're not already, that's part of this program. With Navy, you know, you can get as much as 50,000 from them, you know, just from that one bank, and they tend to have much more lenient underwriting guidelines. We've had clients with low 600 credit scores getting $25,000, credit cards. We have the Amazon. This is another one too. If you're looking to leverage the business side as well, just being in their system. There's another app. We'll do a video later on that explains sort of the process if you want to get like business funding through Amazon. And then there's also, as I've highlighted, the American Express piggyback. And I love it, American Express, because they value your relationship. Not necessarily a credit score, but once you're in with them and you build with them, then they'll treat you really well, both on the personal and business side. And another thing too, they have a pre-qualified, like you can go in the app and click to see what pre-approved offers are available. And generally, if something pops up, then you're at pretty good odds of getting approved. I don't think I've ever done that process and not gotten approved. Now I'm up to about, between personal and business, up to about 7 accounts with them. So we'll go much more deep in depth with specific cards and accounts and different banks and things like that. But this first introductory, I just wanted to sort of give an overview of sort of the core fundamentals of this program and what the approach is and the different tiers there are, because it's designed with the assumption that you're either starting out or you have challenged credit, so it'll work for any credit profile, bankruptcies, it doesn't matter. And so again, optinprescreen.com, get your free TransUnion. You can get that through Wallet Hub, and then your free Experian as well. And so those are the 3 things that before we have a one-on-one with everyone, just have those things already done, so that we can move forward with designing a profile, in a strategy that works with your credit profile, and then we can start getting to work from there. I know some of you probably already know a lot of this information, but there's certainly a lot more that you would definitely benefit from, and we're not going to cover all of that in this meeting, but in subsequent meetings, we will cover various other topics. So that's it for this evening. I definitely appreciate all of you. Thanks for taking time out of your holiday to attend this, and I look very much forward to building it with each and every one of you. And I'm definitely hoping to change your lives and get down to this money at the end of the day. So if you guys have any other questions, you can email me or via social media. And I'll be reaching out to each and every one of you to set up a one-on-one this week, hopefully, where we can just, take a high-level view of your credit profile and, just help me get a better understanding of what your goals are. And then, we'll come up with a plan, for your success, and, optimize the credit funding, as well as do it in the most efficient manner so that you have the highest approval odds. So that's it. Again, thank you guys, and we'll be in touch very soon. I'm hoping to have a weekly Zoom video conference. So we'll send out meeting invites for those as those come about. So again, thank you all, and have a great evening.
All right, you as well, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks a
Talk to you
lot.
later. Yep.
Take care.